Yeah, and I just love that if Kwan heard this, us talking about him as an MVP candidate, he would be like,
He'd hate it.
"You guys are idiots."
Put it down in his journal. They are so dumb. Zach, it's truly not a good sign when I'm sitting down to start thinking about what are my hot takes going to be for this episode today. And I realized every single one that I was going to have is not even going to be able to hold a candle to anybody predicting Tyler Naquin would eventually be a pitcher in the Cleveland organization. How am I supposed to top that news from last week?
He really stole our thunder, and that's not cool. I love this episode every year. I remember recording it last year in the back of the Goodyear Ballpark press box as constant lineup changes and official scoring decisions were being announced over us. I don't have a great feel for this year's because so many of the ones we threw out there last year, I want to just run them back. I feel like I want a redo. I want a mulligan.
So you didn't learn anything, though? You just want to say the same thing over again?
Yes. So this can be about 8 minutes, and then we're out of here.
But this time, we'll get it right. Oh, I don't know if I even want to revisit what we said last year.
I don't think it's as bad as we nailed a couple of them.
Interesting. Okay,
Do you want to go through what we said?
Yeah, I'd love to hear it real quick. And by the way, welcome to the Selby is Godcast, where that is Zack Meisel. He remembers everything that we've said on the show, and I'm T.J. Zuppe. I try to forget it.
How about I said they would have a top 3 bullpen in baseball. You said they would have the best bullpen in the American League. Put those together and you get the best bullpen in baseball, which they were.
On planet Earth, there is no bullpen better than them. Okay, that's a nice way to start. I'm feeling more confident now about the things I have jotted down for today's show.
How about you said Stephen Vogt would win manager of the year?
Whoa! No, I didn't forget that. I'm not going to let you forget that one.
How about I said 4 different teams would sit in first place in the AL Central at some point during the season? And we had a great 4-team race throughout the summer, did we not? And then...
Well, I think we're out of time to really talk about what else we predicted. We should probably get to this year's. That's what people are here for.
Yeah.
No, say it. Say it.
I said Gavin Williams staff ace. You said Gavin Williams all-star.
Is that our fault? That's kind of our fault.
I said Juan Brito would be playing 5 times a week by July 1st.
Did you say where?
Forgot to say Columbus.
Yeah, see? Get caught up on the details.
You said Tyler Freeman would have a breakout year. I said...
In April?
I said, quote, I wonder if there's a path for him to be the center fielder.
I don't think that had happened previously. You mentioned that, and then the next day he's in center field.
I just saw it in my crystal ball. I said Stephen Kwan would lead the American League in hits, and I looked like a genius for about 3 months.
So you just want to you just want to replay some of these. I can already tell.
I mean, the more
some of these.
As I'm thinking back. For hot takes, I feel like these scored pretty well.
Why don't you lead us into this year's hot takes? I don't know if you want to start mild. Do you want to just go for it and give me your best take?
Well,
what are you feeling good about this year?
I mean, mild would be an option. We also could go honey garlic. We could go spicy barbecue because, of course, shout out to our friends. No, they're not our friends yet, but shout out to Winking Lizard. We use their wing sauces to rate just how scorching hot of a take this is, from plain to fire in the hole, which, do you have to sign a waiver? No, but they say proceed with caution, not for the faint of heart.
I feel like the police are going to get involved if we're talking about a friend that we're your friend, you just don't know it yet. We might run into some issues. All right, give me the first one.
So I'm going to stick with most of them. Maybe we were just a year too early. And This one, I think if we would have recorded this episode 3 weeks ago, would be like spicy garlic. But instead, it's going to seem pretty mild. And that is Gavin Williams finishes top 5 in the American League Cy Young voting. Spring stats don't matter, right? Don't pay any attention. If I'm going to say, oh, Gavin Williams looks incredible this spring, look at the strikeouts, look at how overpowering and dominant he looks, then I also have to be concerned with all the guys who aren't hitting, or Luis Ortiz.
Really?
So I will not reference his stats, and I will instead say he just looks like that traditional workhorse that's going to give you 180 innings, 200 strikeouts. This is the year. How quickly we forget, because he had an injury-riddled, inconsistent year when he was playing catch-up, that this was the dude. Like, credit to Tanner Bibee, who has been the ace of the staff, but it was Gavin Williams who was the first-round pick, the top 50 prospect, the guy who was pitching opposite Bibee on the backfields, and everybody in the front office raced outside in spring training to go watch them duel. And he looked really good as a rookie, and even like we said, as good as his numbers look, there's so much more potential for him to scratch. This is the year he does it. This is the breakout, and it results in him being a top 5 Cy Young finisher.
Yeah, you're right. If we would have done this weeks ago, that had been really going on a limb. But I think many people have joined the Gavin Williams Express entering this year. I mean, I guess really you go based on vibes. You go on health, which for him, that was a big factor last year. And with everybody around baseball, around this time of year, everyone starts dropping like flies. And of course, the New York Yankees, no one's going to shed a tear for them losing their ace. But Garrett Cole now gone and off the map. It's a reminder of what really matters in spring training. As much as I like to see good statistics by everybody's name, and I like to see red on their StatCast pages and high exit velocities, and the most important thing, does everybody come out of this unscathed and ready, and is their body feeling good? Because I feel like if you've done that, that's about 97% of what's important in spring training. I will throw the rest of it away. Do we care beyond the first week of the season what sort of spring anybody had? It might buy them a little bit of goodwill, and, well, he had a good spring, so give him a week or two to see if that's going to continue into the year. But outside of that, it doesn't matter. So for Williams, having that health, it's backed up, though, by the fact that the numbers in spring training, and not just surface number levels, we're talking about just how all of his pitches are playing. It really has you excited, because it looks like he can unlock what we hoped was coming last year very quickly in this year. And they need that. Because, yes, Bibee, I feel like we almost take Bibee for granted because he's just been so, in his first couple of years, so consistently good, but hasn't really like burst and exploded to be, oh, goodness, look at this, he's on the same path as Shane Bieber. He hasn't done that yet. But Gavin Williams, if he is able to look like a top-of-the-rotation guy, tell me how good this rotation looks with him and Bibee paired at the top.
That's a really nice 1-2 punch. Yep. Mm-hmm. And takes pressure off of the rest. You know, Ortiz, like, take your time. Like, get accustomed to Cleveland's pitching staff and figure out the arsenal and the usage and the sequencing that works best for you. And McKenzie, don't feel like you have to return to 2022 right off the rip. And Lively, don't feel like you have to carry more of a load than you carried last year. And so it's just, it settles everybody in if you have those two guys pitching as like you dreamt they would a couple years ago.
And not only does it help you in the games that those two guys pitch, but when you have two of them, if they are capable of looking like front of the rotation arms, that takes all the pressure off the bullpen that just had so much thrust upon them last year. So it makes you better in the days before they pitch because, you know, hey, we've got our stud coming the next day. If we need to unload the pen, we can do that. And then hopefully your stud pitches, or in this case, maybe two of them pitch. And then the day after that, if you need the bullpen to pick up the slack for a starter, they could potentially do that too. So it gets you excited thinking about that potential. My first one, we said this pair could be special, and Bibee is being overlooked. Let's bring him into the fold here. My first hot take is that the Guardians will have two pitchers in the top 10 in AL Cy Young, and one of them will be Bibee.
Who's the other?
Well,
Cantillo?
I already knew you were going to go Gavin Williams, so I was prepared here in this situation. And let me tell you why I'm excited. When a pitcher first comes up, we often do see pitchers come up and have success, but we always say that second year, it's a big adjustment, right? I feel like when pitchers first come up, they're just succeeding based on their stuff and like guts and no one really knowing them. And so there's some inexperience with everybody facing them. And they just kind of ride that out for their first year. And then the pitchers are really tested in their second year. Ask a guy like Logan Allen. So he survived that, right? And even was finding ways to look strong and improve and show us that he looks like a guy that could lead a rotation. If not a guy that you would choose to do that in the future, a guy you would certainly doing that now. I just feel like having gone through the first year, then go through the second year, have everybody kind of make their adjustments to you, and then you also see that, yeah, I do need to make adjustments. And it's one thing to listen to someone say, hey, we know you had success in your rookie year, but have you ever thought about maybe shaping this pitch differently? Have you ever thought about maybe going in a different direction with an off-speed pitch or adding this or that? And when you just had success in your rookie year, you listen to that and you say, okay, sure, but did you see the year I just had? And I feel like it becomes a nice teaching moment for a guy like Carl Willis or really anybody that is part of this pitching group with Cleveland, that a guy, when they go through it a little bit, and it just backs up maybe what you think, hey, we need to make this subtle adjustment. And it helps that pitcher feel like, yeah, I do need to make these adjustments. And beyond all of that, for Bibee, you know what else he did? He survived. He saw the worst of what could happen. Okay, so I didn't have success, or I didn't have the best playoff start, or whatever. Well, I'm still here. You know, we still had a lot of success last year, and I think I can recover and I can be better. So he's already seen like the negative side of what can go wrong, and now I feel like he's probably in year 3 ready to just take off.
Yeah, there's like an ebb and a flow to it, right? You come up, and especially in Cleveland, we see like Plesac and Savali looked awesome at the very beginning, right? And then maybe it's year 2, you take a step back and you kind of have to figure out, okay, like what's going to work long term? And then guys hit their stride. That's when you learn if there's staying power here. His ebbs weren't that bad. Like his negatives were still pretty good. So I think that's a really good sign. That take, I don't know, maybe it's because Corey Kluber has been around camp the last few days, and it's just like there are like Cy Young vibes going on. So maybe it doesn't quite feel as crazy as it should. I'm going to go like a little above medium. I'm going to go Caribbean sauce, which is a zesty, spicy hot sauce infused with cloves, cinnamon, nutmeg, thyme, garlic, and a touch of honey for a sweet and savory finish, which, you know, that would be a sweet and savory finish for the Guardians if they could have 2 aces at the top of the rotation. I might as well just run it back with Stephen Kwan, too. I can't quit him. I've not even hinted at this. I've outright said this.
Why would you want to?
For months. I think I'm so intrigued to learn like what the fully formed finished product of Stephen Kwan is. We've seen the power. We've seen him slapping the ball all over the place. He only ever wins Gold Gloves. The thing that I can't move past is that all of the skills, the elements here, even if you could look at like the offensive profile at the end of the year and you might be like, yeah, that's a pretty good player. And then you think about defensively what he offers, that's a pretty good player. Think about the fact that he can steal some bases, the fact that he is going to walk as often as he strikes out. It's really healthy for his WAR. And you think about where's the first place MVP voters look when they have their ballot in front of them and they can't figure out how to, you know, maybe the first and second place finishers are
RBI.
obvious, but after that, it gets really muddy, right?
Sack bunts.
Yeah. So I just think that this guy could have, I think like a 6 WAR season is not crazy, right? So if I wanted to have a hot take, I feel like it'd have to be 7. And then I'm thinking, well, what if we just stick with the award theme here? Stephen Kwan finishes top 7 in the AL MVP voting. Is that hot enough? Should I go 5?
I
mean,
think
this
if
is
you would have
Stephen
said
Kwan.
5,
Nobody knew who he was a few years ago.
if you would have said top 5, I think that's pretty spicy. But 2 spots back, I don't know. That's not that
I mean, this is
spicy.
also like Aaron Judge exists. Bobby Witt Jr. exists. Gunnar Henderson exists. Jose Ramirez exists. So I feel like 7. I mean, it's Stephen Kwan we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Even if Stephen Kwan was on this podcast, he would say it's Stephen Kwan we're talking about.
This is right. In his rookie year, was like, people don't even know who I am. Why are they predicting big things for me? You don't know.
But I think he's such a well-rounded player, and if he stays healthy, I mean, I think he had. I'm not looking at it right now. I think he had 4.3 wins above replacement last season. He missed 40 games, so this is not like if he can get to 6. He's going to be in that conversation.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy because he is such a war sponge. And you hope the offense, what we saw with the power, that continued. I don't even know if it has to blossom more. It has to be more spectacular. But even if it just proves to be a realistic thing that he can certainly be in double digits, but scratching more of that 12 to 15 range consistently, and that doesn't feel out of the realm of possible for him. That would go a long way from legitimizing him in this race among a bunch of other players that might get it done with the RBI, with a home run, with a really high OPS or WRC plus. He's just such a fun player because it still feels like he's not in his final form, as you said. He's still evolving as a player. And they're going to be, in the future, is this defense going to be as special as it's been? I don't know. But I think throughout his career, what he loses in physical skills, he will gain some in smarts, and he will just continue to be a smart player, an annoying player for the opposition, and a guy that just piles up the value before you even know it. I'm curious what voters would do with him just full season, kind of doing what he did last year over the length of it. How do people treat that?
But that's the thing is like, could he hit 20 home runs?
Could he? I mean, we talked about this in a previous show. I think he could.
Okay. Could he hit 315?
Yeah.
Well, if he does that, his on-base percentage is probably going to be 400. I mean, a 315, 400, I don't know, 4 something slugging percentage, at least. More walks than strikeouts. 15 stolen bases.
Yeah.
Gold Glove caliber defense. Like that's a really, really valuable player. Might want to lock that guy up.
I mean, you're just talking about like a Michael Brantley 2014 season.
Right. And look, this is all like this time of year and this exercise. It's all Pollyanna. I'm not sitting on here. The hot take would be like Stephen Kwan hits 230. Right? But I think that's all in there. I still don't know exactly what it looks like over the course of a full season, but there were stretches, and I we didn't think he was going to hit 400 last year, but weren't there stretches where we were pretty convinced, like, this guy's going to regress a little bit, but he's too good not to still hit 330. And I think injuries played a part. I think pitchers made adjustments, and he's always answered back. So I'm excited to see what that looks like.
Yeah, I think that's what's important is every time he's gone through it, this dude emerges and is back to being really good. So you just believe that even when he goes through prolonged struggles, it's going to get out of him eventually. He's too good of a talent, too smart of a player, and eventually he'll have enough success that maybe he'll get out of his own head too. Probably a big key for him, as he would probably tell you. I'm going to stick with the rotation theme. I think if you have 2 guys finish in the top 10 in Cy Young voting, they're probably lifting things pretty considerably just between the 2 of them. I don't know if I could pick out the 5 today and tell you these are the 5 they're going to ride with, and by the end of the year, this is what it's going to look like. I don't know. There's a lot of names here. And even in that bullpen, some of how they start the year will dictate, who's going to start the year as a starter, who's going to be stretched out, and maybe just a long man in the bullpen. I'm so unsure of what that bullpen's going to look like. But just because I already feel good about Bibee and about Williams, and I also really, as I've said before, feel good about Bieber when he returns, I think this rotation is going to be a top third in baseball this year.
Okay.
And that's my next hot take. I think the group that they have, again, I don't know that it's going to feature McKenzie for the whole year. I don't know if it's going to feature Logan Allen at some point, or Joey Cantillo, or Doug Nikhazy. I don't know who are the names yet, but I think they have enough of them, and I have confidence certainly that they're going to get the most out of whoever is pitching well enough. I think they're going to be a top third. I don't think they're going to reach like, oh, this is clearly a top 5 rotation or better, but I think they're going to hang around closer to the upper echelon of teams than they certainly did last year for much of the year.
Okay, so the top 10, I'm going to say that's Bourbon Barrel, which is the 4th weakest sauce. But I think it's giving them credit. The reason it's maybe not as hot of a take is because we've seen glimpses of a lot of these guys at their best. And if you add that all up, it's certainly top third, right? The question is, we haven't seen enough of Ortiz to know what he is. We don't know exactly what Bieber will look like when healthy. We have no idea what to make of McKenzie, but there's at least the floor is so much higher. You know, you're not relying on Carlos Carrasco to make 21 starts. I mean, can you imagine doing that in 2025? Oh, wait, the Yankees might be. I think you're in a lot better shape. I mean, they were pulling their hair out at times last year, and you still might do that. And you don't know some of the young guys. Like, I can't predict what Doug Nikhazy is going to look like in July. I don't know what Joey Cantillo will look like in year 2, but there's a lot of reasons to be encouraged and just depth. Now, you got to stay healthy still. Like, the key guys have to stay healthy, but yeah, I almost would, like, not just a hot take, like, I kind of would predict that they'd have a top 10 or maybe like top 12.
I got to have some safe ones to come back to when we do this in 2026. And you
just
say, hey, you said
smarter.
This and that, which will overshadow the stupid things I'm about to say. So, sure.
How about Kyle Manzardo finishes with 60-plus doubles and home runs?
Oh, I thought you were just going to say homers. I thought, what an amazing year.
I did have a teammate predict to me this week that Manzardo will hit 30 home runs. And he kind of said, he kind of framed it as if he was speaking on behalf of all of his teammates too when he made this prediction. So 60 plus. I mean, I think
wow.
I don't know like what the home run potential, like, he doesn't look like a guy who could hit 40 homers. More of like a 25 homer guy, but he looks like a dude who could hit 40 doubles. So I don't know. Can he hit like 24 home runs and 36 doubles? I thought initially I had 65 for this number. That felt a little high, especially because is he going to play all the time against lefties?
That's the most important thing.
That's the tough part. But I'll say 60.
Well, I think if he's on track for 60, he's going to eat up some of those left-handed starts too. Because certainly, especially with the way the game is now, even if a lefty starts the game, when are they coming out? 4th inning, 5th inning? So you could, maybe you have 1 or 2 at-bats where you live with him against the lefty, but he's so good against the righties, and you don't want to have to start pulling strings in the 4th or 5th inning to go to a pinch hitter or reduce your bench, or maybe even later in the year when there's a David Fry too, and that limits some of your flexibility. So he does earn some starts against some lefties. I hope that they do that to begin the year. There are some positions where it's clear. Like I'm not like, oh, Will Brennan, get him some at-bats against a lefty. I don't care about that. But Kyle Manzardo, I care about that development. It was a concern about him being a full, a can't-miss prospect. That was one of the things that he was going to have to overcome, and he still hasn't proven that yet. He hasn't gotten the opportunity to do it. But, God, I feel like the talent is so good. I feel like he gets it mentally. I think he has a good attitude for this. And he finished the season strong and in a place where I'm not feeling any any concern about him being one of the top order hitters for this club.
What about the attitude? What is it that convinces you?
I think he has some of the laid-back ability to have some of it roll off of him when things aren't going well. But I also, in listening to some of his interviews, I feel like he really understands the art of hitting. And has a good philosophy about it and knowing how to make adjustments, how to adapt. I think he just has a good game plan up there.
I think you nailed it. I think, and I was curious to see if like that shines through, because I just keep coming back to a conversation I had with him earlier in the spring when I was like, "This is your first big league camp here. Like last year you were, or his second one, but his first one like with major league experience, right? So you've been through all the firsts, you've been through like you know who everybody is and all that, and like I was asking like, what's it like having been through what you went through last year and now being in spring training?" And he's just like, "It's so much chiller, man." And like that's exactly what you expect this dude from Idaho with a mustache to say. But then you do ask him about hitting, and he's really smart with everything you said. I mean, I think he knows what makes him a good hitter. He knows why it didn't work the first time, what he changed, why he was so much more effective and prepared the second time. And yeah, I mean, I think big things are. I think he's in store for some big things. And I think they know that. I'm really curious to see how the playing time goes, because it's awkward because Fry comes back in the middle of the year, and by that point you have a good feel for maybe what Manzardo could handle. And
well, that might be a good thing. That might be a good thing, because then you've given Manzardo some leash. Maybe he's shown you we're not there yet against the lefties, and we're in the thick of still trying to compete. So, yeah, development's cool, but we got to win, and our best bat here needs to be Fry against the lefty. So you'll have some more answers when he does return, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how it plays out. I know. These things have a way of working themselves out.
They do that. I think we'll be saying that about Ortiz too, Luis Ortiz. This will be my last one in the rotation, I promise. But it was just so easy to look at that rotation and dream on some big things. And also this one, I don't know that this is really a spicy take, but it's just kind of more of a prediction for him. I think initially there are going to be some starts where it's going to go rough for him. I think there are going to be some shows where we're going, ooh, I don't know. Are they going to stick with him? I foresee Ortiz going on one of those second half runs where he's just lights out, and you're glad you stuck with him. You're glad you gave him that leash.
Ubaldo Jimenez?
That kind of what popped in my head. Yeah, and I don't know if I can explain it. It's just that's the vibe I have when looking at him. I don't know if it's that I just believe he could be a horse and just soak up a lot of innings. And sometimes like the real value in a guy like that, which I'm hopeful that he can be that, isn't necessarily how good he is and just comes out like a powerhouse at the beginning of the season, but it's how long they last and how strong they stay throughout the season. And I'm wondering, could that be him? Could that be the sort of pitcher where first couple months of the season, it's like, okay, well, this dude's got a 4.10 ERA. But come July and August, you're like, well, this dude's down to 370, and he just keeps taking the ball every fifth day. And he goes out there and gives you 5 innings at least every time he's out there. And that's really valuable as the season is unfolding. I think as we see more of him, as he gets more familiar with the organization and the changes they want to make, you come over to a new team, they start telling you, hey, this is what we want to do, and you've just been listening to your past team tell you, no, this is the plan, and we had some success with that, and you come to this new team, they have a new plan for you. There's a lot there at play. I think as he gets settled into this organization and they learn what he reacts to as well, you're going to find a better pitcher in the second half. So Ortiz, I think we're going to have some starts early where we're going to go, ooh, I don't know if that was a good trade for them, but I think you'll be thankful that he's here by the time August and September rolls around.
Are you not a spicy food fan? You don't like a little heat on your wings?
Well, it's not about the mouth. It's okay, never mind. Yeah.
Like I would give that honey mustard, I think. I agree with you, but that's not what this is about.
Yeah, I'm saving a couple that.
Okay.
Okay, we'll see.
So I was mapping out what I wanted to predict. And I think Brayan Rocchio's in for a nice year. And I was going to say, how about Brayan Rocchio as an all-star? And then I looked at the shortstops, and you got Witt, you got Henderson, you got Seager. You still have Correa, Volpe, and Jeremy Pena are decent. Bo Bichette, Trevor Story. There's just a lot. And I think only 3 make it. That's tough. And I was thinking, okay, what about Bo Naylor? There's always there aren't a ton of catchers who hit. So if he hits, he could be an all-star, right? You got Adley Rutschman, and all the fans are going to vote for Salvi Perez. Cal Raleigh's popular. I don't think Naylor as an all-star is crazy, and I kind of wanted to go with that one. And then I was thinking, all right, what if I say Austin Hedges is an all-star just to see if you would croak live on air here? But then I figured it out.
Take me through the world where that happens.
Lane Thomas is an all-star.
Okay.
I don't think this is the spiciest take, but I think there's so much more opportunity as an outfielder since so many make it, and he's got the ingredients. He's got power. He's got speed. The last few years, there's been signs that there are better swing decisions in there. And he certainly has motivation going into a contract year. So if this is a guy who hits well in the first half and maybe has 15 home runs and the slash line looks pretty good, he's got 17 stolen bases, that absolutely could be an all-star. So I'm going to say Lane Thomas is an all-star.
I'm glad you talked about Thomas because I thought about a hot take for him as well. I ended up passing on it, but he is one of the names that I wondered about. But in the end, I opted to go in a different position. I'll tell you what that is later. For him, we said it in the postseason, just the level of the roller coaster ride of he arrives here and you're like, okay, well, I don't know if he's the perfect fit, but he's probably an upgrade over what you currently have. And then, my God, it was awful. And you couldn't play this guy against righties. And even the team was deciding, there's probably going to be some days we're going to sit him against righties. And you look at what they gave up and the fact that he was supposed to be this deadline acquisition to add offense. And now you don't even know if you can play him against righties. And that was already a concern coming over. And he's just terrible. And then go to what he was doing in the postseason. You couldn't wait for this guy to get to the plate. And some of the biggest at-bats this team has ever had in postseason history are courtesy of him.
You know what's cool? I was talking to Johnkency Noel about his playoff moment, and he went out of his way to say the thing that, he left the batting cage underneath feeling like he was going to do something big. He said the way his lower half felt, the way he was swinging in the cages, he felt like he was as prepared as he could possibly be. And then he saw Lane Thomas with that great at-bat where he was down 0-2, worked the count, hit one off the top of the wall, and that reinforced to him. He's like, that's watching that inspired him, and then he was certain it was fate. So, yeah, that's in there. He can be that guy you want at the plate in a big moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how much. This is not a brand new rookie here. He's had time in the major leagues. He's had success in the major leagues before. He's come close to hitting 30 home runs in the major leagues before. So this is not someone that, how did I find myself in this position? But I do wonder, he's coming over to a new team, middle of the year, a complete shift from where Washington is at to now you're with Cleveland, who's in the thick of their postseason race, and there's a lot of pressure on you to succeed. But then you have the success, you kind of going back to what we said with Bibee. You withstood the worst of it, and you're still here. You survived. You're still alive. Okay, so what else could happen to me on this field? And then you come out in the postseason and hit a grand slam off the guy that ended up being the Cy Young Award winner. And not just that at-bat, but having consistently great at-bats in the postseason. Doing that one just ahead of Johnkency Noel. I don't know. I don't know what confidence does for a guy that's been around the game for a while. But just settling in, knowing where he needs to be, and then just attacking this, knowing he's the center fielder for this club, and you know what the expectation is. You know you're going to play every single day for this team. Get out there, hit some home runs, steal some bases, and be an above-average bat for us. And I'm anxious for him. I'm not ready to go on a limb like you were here, but I'm really anxious to see what this full season's going to look like. Oh, by the way, he's going to be concerned about his future, too, by the end of this season. Does that add some motivation to it, or does it add some pressure? I don't know yet, but I'm can't wait to find out. So you just went through the list. You were like, well, should I do Brayan Rocchio? Should I do Bo Naylor? And then you just explained all the things. I will go to Brayan Rocchio. We've been asking if this man is ever going to have that breakout power-wise. Is this the guy that maybe he's just going to be a contact bat? He works some walks, and that was the one thing that really helped keep him on the field, is that he still maintained a healthy walk rate last year, to 10% last year with Cleveland. But what kind of hitter does he want to be? He hit 8 home runs at the major league level, and there were times in his minor league career where it looked like maybe there's some additional power. I think this is a year where he hits at least 15. I think Brayan Rocchio hits at least 15 home runs, and maybe more, for this club. But he's going to. He hit 8. It wasn't like he was completely allergic to hitting them last year.
It took a while for he didn't hit any till what?
Yeah,
June.
And he ended up with 8 last year, and then of course postseason 2, we saw the bat really come alive. We saw a vote of confidence from this team because this is the shortstop. We made moves to reassure that this is our shortstop. And it's easy to lose sight of the fact that this kid was 23 last year. And we just assume, okay, well, we've been talking about him for years and years and years. He hasn't blossomed yet. What's happening here? His age 23 season, his prime is like 2 years away in terms of just the marriage between knowledge and skill. You're like, what, like 25, 26, 27? And he's not even there yet.
If you're a baseball player.
What about for podcasters and writers?
I hope it's a lot older.
I hope it's still on the horizon. 15. Does that seem like a crazy number? Because I played with that for a while, trying to figure out what that is. But
nope,
all the projections are like 11, 10, 9. I think he's got more
15's not crazy. This is the hot takes episode.
So should I go higher? Should I go 20?
Yes. You either 20? Say 0 or you say like 25.
Okay.
Give me an actual number. Like, give me, like, is it 17?
Yeah, let's go 17.
Okay. I would say that's 17. Like spicy sesame.
I didn't really know how to word it too, because I was thinking I'm not ready to project him being an all-star like you were talking about, but I think we're going to see Brayan Rocchio be an actual productive member of the offense, and that wording it like that is definitely not a hot take. But I think he will be someone that it's not, oh God, here comes Rocchio. It's okay, here comes Rocchio.
Yeah, and I think I had someone tell me that for him, because everyone was asking him, like, how is it that after the season you had, you're just on fire in October? And it felt like he was getting asked that daily. And I had someone tell me they believed just when you walk up to the plate in October for the first time, there's no stats on the board. Everything's a 0. It's everything's reset. And I understand, you get to a point in the middle of the season where every time you walk up to the plate, you're hitting 204 and there's no power numbers and you can't miss it. It's in size 1,000 font on the scoreboard. And it's also really difficult to make legitimate changes during the season. So, like, what are you going to do to completely reverse something that's been going that poorly? So, I think just having the clean slate for the postseason, feeling like you have nothing to lose at that point, and then being able to build on that confidence all offseason and feel like you belong, feel like you've been through tougher things, you've delivered in tougher moments, like that can go a long way. I mean, I'm still a skeptic. Like, I also have 6 months of evidence that wasn't great, but there are some promising tools in there. I think the fact that he maintained a healthy walk rate all year, the fact that he's shown signs at certain times of being able to hit, having extra base power, being a switch hitter. There's definitely more in there. This, again, like we so quickly forget about what we thought before one bad year or one injury riddled year. And it's just like with Williams, and It's with Rocchio. Everybody thought this guy was the next Francisco Lindor. They wore the same number coming up, and the swings were similar, and they were switch hitting shortstops, and you don't that doesn't have to disappear just because this guy as a rookie hit 206 or whatever. So I've been critical. I also think he will blossom in 2025. All right, my last one. I said last year, 4 different teams will sit in first place. I will pat myself on the back for leading the charge for the AL Central, saying, aside from the White Sox, this division is going to be competitive. I didn't know if that meant they'd be 4 good teams, but
stop talking. You're making it sound worse. just accept.
I think everybody is having trouble predicting the division this year. I have said you can take any of the 4 contenders, put them in any order, and it sounds rational. Have really struggled to figure out who I think is going to win the division. I've really struggled to figure out where the Guardians will finish. And when things are this close, so often it comes down to health, the timing of health. And I wonder if the Guardians benefit here because they get Bieber back for the second half. And how many times have you seen, it just looks like this starting pitcher they're gassed. They just need a 3-week respite. Having Bieber come back in the middle of the season, maybe getting something from John Means at the end, that could be really beneficial. So I've started talking myself into the Guardians a little bit. And my last hot take is Cleveland clinches the division on Thursday, September 25th, with a win against the Detroit Tigers at Progressive Field.
Write it down. Put it in your notes app. Why that date specifically?
It's the 159th game of the season, so I figure they'll have a 3-game lead going into it, and maybe the Tigers will be in second place, and that's that.
Okay. I'm curious how many teams from the Central are going to make the postseason again this year.
The American League is interesting. How many teams are you confident will not be in the race? The White Sox? Anybody else? The Angels, maybe?
I mean,
Oakland,
just
just
because they're the
sneaky.
Angels. No, I think
Interesting.
Oakland. Yeah, I think
or Sacramento.
Oakland. Yeah,
Sorry.
Exactly. I both realize that at the same time. Sorry, it still doesn't look right in the standings when I see that. I don't know. The Yankees, are they even any good anymore, considering who they've lost?
I think the American League is going to be a lot of fun. I think there's going to be a lot of teams fighting for position in September. And again, it's health, it's development of young players, guys emerging, trade deadline acquisitions. It's the little stuff on the margins that's going to make the difference this year in all 3 divisions. And we've already seen it. I mean, I think the Yankees felt like a heavy favorite in the East, even though the East looks pretty good top to bottom. And now, I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know who I would pick there.
I kind of like Boston.
Yeah, Boston, that's the pick that everyone's kind of going with. Baltimore, is it unreal to believe that Baltimore, some of their young players just actually develop the way that the people have been talking about them forever, and it's not like they were a bad team before? Yeah. Out in the West, I know the Astros are going through a transition. Texas, everyone believes, will just be back this upcoming year. Seattle is always good to just be meh enough that they make noise for a while. I really don't know. It kind of adds to the why I felt it's so important about trying to do something this offseason to establish yourself amongst a pool of other teams that aren't doing a lot to separate themselves.
Don't be negative.
Okay, final one for me. This one is really...
They'll get you.
This one will be out of right field instead of left. Second best WRC plus on this team. We just assume Jose will be tops. I'm still going to stick with that. But the second best hitter on this team will be Johnkency Noel.
A higher WRC plus than
Stephen
Kwan,
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Manzardo,
Yep.
Lane
Bo
Thomas,
Naylor, Brayan Rocchio,
Carlos Santana.
Carlos Santana. Yeah.
Austin Hedges.
I don't know that I have a lot of actual real data to back this up, although I will use the we don't care about spring training unless it helps boost your argument. And in this case, among hitters that tracked in spring training, TJ, they're not all tracked in every single game. Shut up. Among the hitters that are tracked.
Wait, where our intern is in your basement?
He is just, he will not just let me have my takes. Among the pitches tracked, Johnkency Noel has 5 balls hit 110 or harder. No one else in Major League Baseball has done that this spring. I think he had 3 of them in a game. TJ, they weren't all in the air. Shut up again. It doesn't matter. He is hitting the ball hard. And the thing that makes it interesting as we're recording this, he hasn't walked yet this spring. I don't know. Swing the bat in spring training. You want to feel like your swing is good. I already don't believe he's some guy that's going to come up here and all of a sudden just be the most patient hitter on the planet. Do it enough that you're not swinging at the ball in the other strike zone. Don't go Javier Baez here. But I just feel like he's in a different place from some of the other guys that have come up for Cleveland and had great couple of months and had some big moments, and that was it. And we never heard from them again. He's younger than a lot of those players have been. And he just has that underlying power skill that makes him such a fun player. We talked about it in the show where you were asking me who's going to hit 20 home runs for this team, rank them. And I didn't just say that he had the best of the group that you offered me. I said it was Lane Thomas. And I still feel like that, largely because of playing time. But, man, do you want to see Will Brennan just kind of be solid against right-handed pitching? Or we'll just let Johnkency Noel feast and see what happens for a while.
There's a path, if Brennan just isn't doing it early in the season and Noel is feasting, there's certainly a path for him to play every day, especially with no DeLauder to replace Brennan right off the bat. No George Valera ready to replace Brennan. So but see that the hot take would have been he leads the team in home runs.
How do you think he gets to the second best WRC plus on the team? He's got to hit a lot of them. Got to hit a lot of them.
What is a number that seems crazy but not out of the realm of possibility?
Okay, well let's go through tiers. 20?
Yeah.
20? How would you say that is?
I think he could hit 20 blindfolded.
We might test that based on some of his swing choices. 25.
Yeah, no question. Because that's the thing,
if
too.
If you just gave him playing time, he would get 25.
Right, and the better he hits, the more he plays. So if he plays, that's why the realm, the potential outcomes here is 6 to 40.
Yeah, it's really volatile. Kind of like one of his at-bats. Because just the swing and miss and, again, some of those swing choices. Can he even get to the power if he's constantly swinging at bad pitches that the pitchers want him to swing at? But as you made a point in the last show, pitchers aren't perfect. Just because I'm trying to live on the edge, just because I'm trying to knock the bat out of his hands a little bit to keep him off the plate so the arms don't get extended, doesn't mean that you don't miss by 6 inches to the middle of the plate. And you just are you good enough that you're going to be swinging the bat hard in case you hit it? In his case, yeah, he will.
That's probably your spiciest one. I'll give it Chipotle chili. It was rich and smoky. I think it's not crazy though, because they don't have, this isn't the 95 Indians lineup where if you would have said Paul Sorrento will be second in WRC plus, I would have, or Herbert Perry, I would have said, wow, fire in the hole.
Good enough that it's going to replace Tommy against lefties.
Yeah. But that's legit, because it's also, you think about the offensive profile here. You're taking it. You're not just talking about home runs, because this dude could hit 190 with 30 home runs. But you're saying he's going to do enough damage and not strike out his way to AAA.
Yeah.
So
well,
that's pretty spicy.
I feel like a hitter like him would be a nice change of pace in this lineup.
Yeah. There is. I mean, we saw it in the playoffs. They don't win Game 3 if they don't have that terrifying threat on the bench.
You got to have some power. You've got to have some power. And if that means swing and miss, fine. But as a pitcher goes through this lineup, and if everybody is just, we're just a bunch of contact bats that maybe we hit 20 home runs, Okay, but I'll work a game plan to attack that style of hitter. And then imagine here comes Johnkency Noel that he's going to be swinging at some stuff he shouldn't, but oh God, if I miss in the middle of the plate, there's 3 runs on the board. And I just feel like some differentiation in hitting style. It can't hurt. It can't hurt. I think it's a nice change of pace to have in this lineup. If he hits well enough that the strikeouts don't matter, because they're going to come. But if you're striking out 32% of the time but reaching 33 home runs, that might be good enough.
And remember, Winking Lizard is in Avon, Beechwood, Bedford Heights, Brunswick, Canton, Copley, Downtown, Independence, Lakewood, Macedonia, Mayfield Heights, Mentor, Peninsula, Reynoldsburg, Washington Square. Isn't that their jingle?
Not even close. I was thinking about coming up later this week, which, based on our recording schedule, later this week isn't now, but later this week, let's ask our Patreon supporters to give us some of their spiciest takes, and we can figure out how likely it is that thing would happen.
I love it.
So how do people be a part of that show, Zach?
I feel like you're testing me. Well, you can subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/SelbyIsGodcast, where you get 1 extra episode per week and then some special perks and fun stuff. You can join our Discord, where it's just constant roster speculation and
going wild in there,
asking TJ for the daily travel rosters, and
you don't know the pressure of looking in the Guardians Dropbox account and realizing that somebody has stuck the roster in the wrong folder and frantically searching because you don't want to let down our Discorders and not have the roster for them. That it hurts me when I realize it's too late and the game already started and I didn't do my part for the day. So there's a lot of pressure to make sure that travel roster gets out and that you find it in the Discord. Yeah, let's open it up. I'm curious. I'm sure some will have much spicier takes than even we did. Me certainly. I was really struggling this year to come up with the really, really super spicy takes. I feel like it's been easier in years past. This one, I don't know why. I just couldn't.
It's because you're so worried about being correct. That's why. You could, everything you said, you just take it up a notch. A top 3rd rotation? Say top 5. Say it with your chest. Come on.
All right, well, let's do it again. Tanner Bibee, top 5 Cy Young Award winner finish.
That's better.
That rotation, top 3 in the American League.
I like it.
Okay. Luis Ortiz, second half is going to be so good that he's just going to be in the consideration for a Cy Young because the second half was so amazing.
Like CC Sabathia on the Brewers?
Exactly that.
Okay.
Brayan Rocchio, 25 home runs.
Oh. I need some milk.
We're not going to say, don't hit the slap-hitting shortstop second. We're actually going to say, yeah, Rocchio in the second spot makes sense because he's so flipping good. And Johnkency Noel, 40 home runs. He's going to reach the number that Franmil Reyes never could for you.
No. I need a new Franmil. Noel seems too easy, though.
Is it only home runs, or is it just chasing the carrot of something that is your...
Yeah, like I need a new thing.
Your Franmil. Yeah.
A new guy.
Kwan finishing as a finalist in the AL MVP.
What if he wins? Would that be the most unlikely MVP since Steve Nash?
It would be pretty incredible. Just imagine, up on the stage, there's Judge, and then here's Kwan. What? I guess it's not that. We had the Altuve Judge thing for years.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not that crazy wild, but still, the difference between Judge and Kwan and what they bring skill wise.
Yeah, and I just love that if Kwan heard this, us talking about him as an MVP candidate, he would be like,
he'd hate it.
You guys are idiots.
Put it down in his journal. They are so dumb. It's okay. Many people say this. All right, I'm looking forward to later this week.
And the whole month. We got March Madness.
Mm-hmm.
So we have our annual now bracket. Got our war draft. Have you started prepping for the rock, paper, scissors match?
I don't know why. I do that every year, so why prep? It would make no sense to prep. I'm just going to wing it this year because every other year it's not worked out so kindly.
Good luck with that, man.
What do you do? Give me a little insight into how you prepare. No.
I just win, man. I can't tell you my secrets.
Yeah. I think you just have your kids pick them out of a hat. That's how I think you do it.